site that we are on. All right. So, as you can, Urban Community Agronomics, right? We are a nonprofit organization that stewards over 176 acres. Right, and we have an envelope that we will develop. That's about 30 to 40 acres interior here, and then the rest, right, is within a conservation easement. Right, so the work that we do out there, who had some golf balls? Right, right. So the Little River outlines the easternmost portion of our property. North of this property is a wonderful residential community called Trayburn. And up in Trayburn, there is a golf course. Sometimes, right, you hit a ball and it doesn't go where you want it to go, right, and it ends up in the Little River. So that is a different task that we do. We'll go out and get inside of the Little River and clean up the golf balls, right? It was on the list, but we are not doing that today, because you would never come back. I wouldn't come back. But all of that to say, right, there's a lot of different work that gets done here. Right? We didn't even really get into our 47 raised bed community gardens, right? We didn't get into our high top today. We didn't get into the youth garden. But I say all of that to say, right, that there are so many various things that we do here, right, that any time that you come out here, we greatly, greatly appreciate. Now, for the history. Last year in February, we took over ownership of this property. For the last few years, starting in 2017, our founder, Delphine Sellers and Lucille Patterson had the idea to fight food insecurity here in Durham by creating a community garden. So we had a user agreement with Triangle Land Conservancy. So all of this that you see here was overgrown. Some of the structures that you see here weren't here. There were some structures that aren't here right now that used to be here. So when we decided to get that user agreement with Triangle Land Conservancy, day one, they came out here with hand saws, right, to an overgrown forest, right? So that is the kind of commitment and dedication, right, of the organization that we have here. We don't take no for an answer, right? Whether it's cold, whether it's wet, right? There's still work that needs to be done, right? Because we believe that the work that we're trying to do is good for the community, right? And that is fighting food insecurity, right? And also being good stewards of the land by engaging in environmental awareness, advocacy, and conservation. We do a monthly food distribution at the site as well. Now, for the site. We have the oldest grave site in Durham County with a man by the name of William Johnston. I'm going to read what it says about him, right, with the hopes that, if you want more information, contact us, but I will lead you to some of the Johnston papers that are currently held over at UNC Chapel Hill or over at Stagford. And we might need to, that thing is really going. Right? And if you can't hear me, right, just let me know, right, and I'll repeat myself. But William Johnston acquires his first piece of land in North Carolina after a 400-acre grant was issued by Henry McCulloch. Johnston was from Annandale, Scotland. He was the great-nephew of North Carolina's royal governor, Gabriel Johnston, and the nephew of Samuel Johnston, a Revolutionary War hero and the first acting royal governor. And the site that we are on right now would have been called Snow Hill Plantation. Henry McCulloch granted an additional 100,000 acres to Johnston, and on part of the land, Snow Hill Plantation was established. William Johnston and his wife, Ann Johnston, built a home along the Great Trading Path. Now, Mr. William Johnston was more of a businessman and a merchant than a planter. So he had a general store. He put that general store, right, on something called the Great Trading Path. That trading path, right, would have been not the main path, but a branch of the path is along the driveway that we have here, right? So hence Catawba Trail Farm, right? We also want to acknowledge the Native Americans and their presence here even before settlers, right? So that path that we drove up on, and we're going to go for a little walk a little bit later, right, is a part of that great trading path. So Mr. Johnston had a store called the Little River Store. William Johnston sold everything from flour to lumber. His customers would pay in cash or trade materials such as wheat, tobacco, or beeswax. In 1768, Johnston offered a third of his store to Richard Benahan in exchange for ownership and management of the store's day-to-day business. Benahan established his home at Snow Hill, and he was known to have an enslaved person here by the name of Scrub. We've looked into it, and we believe that Scrub actually was able to run away and achieve his freedom at some point in time, right? That is still something that we are actively researching. Again, we want to do a community garden, right? So there are new areas all the time that we're trying to uncover. All right, 1785, William Johnston, at the age of 48, passed away. His wife passed before him in 1769. Their daughter, Mary Amelia, was 18 years old when her father passed. In his will, the one house servant named Big Esther was said to be freed after his death. All the land was given to Amelia in a trust until her 21st birthday. Later, Amelia married Walter Alves and lived at Snow Hill until about 1800. Currently, back then, Snow Hill would have been about 1,500 acres, right? And I'm getting to something here that I'm almost certain that everybody will kind of know. So, Duncan Cameron, 1821, was married to Rebecca Benahan, right? Richard's daughter, right? Who acquired Snow Hill Plantation from Amelia and Walter Alves. It was then it became a part of an even larger plantation called Stagville. Has anybody ever heard of Stagville? Yeah. Stagville is a 30,000 acre plantation that held close to 1,000 enslaved bodies, right? And it's probably about 3 miles due east to north through those woods right over there. And you know that portion, once Snow Hill got absorbed right into it, this was turned into the pasture side of that plantation. It was then part of Stagville Plantation. There were some 75 enslaved people at Snow Hill, and after this acquisition happened, then they turned into the property of the Stagville owners. Slave quarters were located along Captain Branch Drive over in Trayburg, right? And we've been through there, and we have been working with some people to better preserve some of the history and the artifacts that have been found over there throughout Trayburg. 1844, Paul Cameron, Duncan's son, invested in a cotton plantation in Alabama. 114 enslaved people marched on foot from North Carolina to Alabama in the wintertime. This event could have easily taken some of the enslaved people from Snow Hill Plantation. 1853, Duncan Cameron dies, and his land was subdivided between his 4 children, along with the enslaved people on each plantation. Thomas Cameron inherited Snow Hill Plantation in a trust because of his intellectual disabilities. Paul Cameron, Thomas's brother, managed the plantation. Emancipation Proclamation happened in 1863. On January 1st, 1863, the proclamation changed the legal status under the federal law of more than 3.5 million enslaved African Americans and the secessionist Confederate states from the enslaved group. Stagville allowed some of the enslaved to stay on their land and share. I think I'm going to fast forward here, right? And this is just about this property, where we're at. So,
can I add a quick piece here?
Yes.
Some of us are from St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. This is part of the East Cedar Grove Missionary Baptist Church Association, the oldest church in that association. We started in 1865. So they were started by people who had been worshiping in the brush arbors on that plantation. But they were able to come out in public and institute construction. So that's the birthplace of our church.
Wow.
Of all the churches.
Wow, did not know that.
Cameron Grove is one of those churches that's named after.
Okay. Thank you for
So
that.
these are our people.
Yeah.
Before we do them, these are our people.
Right, right. Right. So, I kind of want to go through here. Has anybody ever heard of Richard H. Wright? What have you heard about?
The novelist?
The one who was here in Durham, who was a businessman. There was a school that is named after Mr. Wright.
Wright School.
Yes, Wright School. Right, and he played a pivotal role in making a cigarette roller. Right, so he was a businessman. And so at some point in time, 1920, Richard Wright purchased Snow Hill Farm at Stagville from Ann R. Collins, the heir. So on this building right here, right, and you might have missed it when you first drove in, but there's a sign that says R.H. Wright. And it was not original to this building. It was one of his other buildings, manufacturing buildings. But once he had this property here, he took down that sign there, put it up, still in that building. All right, so we have plans for this building right here to be our welcome center. So we are actively taking in bids right now to be able to do this right here inside of something, right, where it's a little less building, right? But I wanted to let you know about that. So, it was an old barn, to my understanding, and so pastures, a lot of heavy equipment is stored there as well. The building right here behind you is an old corn field, and where they would have dried some of the produce that was actually grown out here. We have begun to refurbish that building. We're going to keep it primarily as a intergenerational house, right, with the specific purpose of being able to have a place to where we could learn from one another. Right? We believe, right, in the same way there's a cycle of life in all plants, there's a cycle of education, knowledge, and wisdom in all of us right now, right, to where we want to have a place that the young and the old, the young and the more seasoned, and come together, right, and actually learn from each other. The building that you see over there with the green top, right, that is what we call the mill house. So we actually have some old equipment on the other side of the tent here, some of it over there that we were able to take out of that. So trust me, the inside does not look like the outside. But we want to always try to repurpose, reuse everything it is that we possibly can. So we have running water in there, Wi-Fi capabilities, and that serves to be our main office. So if you ever come out here, purchase eggs or produce or want to hang out, right, you can probably find somebody over up in there. As you go down over here, that big plastic thing, that is the hard cover. So that is a part of our sustainability plan as a nonprofit organization that we will utilize to where we are not just solely dependent upon grants and donations, but we have plans to be able to grow our own vegetables and then be able to put a portion of that into our food boxes for our food distribution, but then also be able to sell some wonderful fresh produce. Then you have our chicken coop and chicken yard. And for the people who cleaned that thing today, raise your hand. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm going to do my best to speak for the chickens. Cluck, cluck. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Cluck, 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 cluck. Cluck. Right. That is chicken saying thank you. And then we have our youth garden over there, and then our youth greenhouse, a compost station, as evidenced by some signs over there. We had a no-till culture garden that worked so well that we couldn't stop the weeds and grass from growing in it. And we kind of forgot that we were in the middle of the forest, right? So the raccoons came and ate everything on a regular basis all the time. And so not changing, that'll be our food orchard. And then our storage container here, which we are actively putting together and working with a muralist to be able to kind of tell this story on that building right there. And then the other one in the back is on